What is up guys, welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I've got this brand spanking new Master MK750 in full review, aiming to compete at that top end of the RGB keyboard market. Does this thing stack up, or are there simply better options? Let's dive in and find out. This keyboard here aims to compete with the likes of the CORSAIR Lux or the Razer Blackwood Chroma V2, really high-end keyboards, and in order for Master to do that, they simply had to step away from their old Master Keys design, my videos for which can be found in the card section up here. It's not that those keyboards didn't look good, they just looked a tad boring, and this new one certainly doesn't have that problem, with beautiful raised keycaps as we've seen before on the K70 and K95 from CORSAIR. This keyboard also feels more premium and better well built than its cheaper, shall we say, predecessors, with full metal construction under the keys and really strong plastics elsewhere. This thing is seriously going absolutely nowhere. Going nowhere. Going absolutely nowhere. Despite this keyboard's full-size layout, Master have actually managed to keep the footprint fairly small indeed. They've done this by having a nice small margin around the edge of the design itself, as well as having slightly reduced space in between the general typing area, the arrow keys and the number pad. It still feels comfortable though, which I really like. Another trademark of Master's keyboard designs features on this unit, and that's that loads of the keys have a whole array of other functions. You can control the entire RGB lighting through pure keyboard keys themselves or software if you wish, as well as boasting media keys and a whole array of other features, which I'll get onto in a moment's time. While we're on the subject of RGB, there are two ways of controlling this keyboard's LED effects. You can either do it on the keyboard itself using a combination of the FN and F5 key to cycle through modes, as well as the FN and arrow keys to change LED effect speed and direction, and then using the FN and 1 through 4 keys on the top number row to jump between different saved presets and profiles. Some people may prefer this approach as it gives good RGB support for macOS and Linux. However, I don't. I like to see a good design piece of software, and that's what I'll get onto next. Another really cool feature of this keyboard is that you can actually play Snake the game on the keyboard itself, which is absolutely mind-blowing and completely epic. You can do this either through the keyboard keys or in the software. Talking of the software, I really like Master's design approach here. You're able to easily update the firmware on the keyboard and the software with simple prompts. You can cycle through all of the different modes, which I'll get onto in a few seconds time, and you can change the speed for them, change the direction very easily using the right hand pane. It's a nicely designed piece of software that doesn't scale particularly well on larger high resolution screens. However, apart from that, I'm pretty satisfied. Jumping into the different lighting modes, first up we've got static, which lets you choose any of the 16.8 million possible colours and set that to the entire keyboard. Next up we've got the rainbow wave mode, which will create a really cool multicoloured wave across your keyboard. The speed and direction settings for this can of course be changed. Next up you've got the crosshair mode, which will allow you to press a key and light will ricochet off that in kind of a crosshair shape. Followed up by reactive fade, which will slowly fade out the keys you press in, which could look really cool indeed. Next up on the settings list, you've got a custom mode, which will allow you to set different keys to different coloured lights, which could be great for games that require a lot of different key stroke and key press combinations. Next up you've got stars, which will randomly fade in and out different keys to emulate the night sky, and you can of course pick the stars and the night sky colour. Following that up is the rain mode, similar to the stars but with a rain effect, the lines actually drawing down the keys of the keyboard. Once again you can choose the rain and the sky colour to create some really cool unique random effects. Next up you've got colour cycle, which will just fade through all of the possible 16.8 million colours. Not as impressive, but still looks fairly cool. Followed up by breathing, which will breathe in and out all of the keys in your set chosen colour. Next up you've got ripple, which will ripple out in a circular motion around the key you press. Next up, you've got the multi-zone setting. This is actually going to be rolled out to the Master Keys lineup as well, the Pro M and Pro S, which is really good to see. And this will allow you to stack different layers on top of each other, different effects, and also assign different effects to different areas of the keyboard for a really, really cool effect. The last two on this list are the Snake and System Status modes. Snake is the game we talked about earlier, which is really cool, followed by System Status, which can either be an audio equalizer or be set to your CPU usage to give you a nice visualization. I think the audio EQ is my personal favourite of all of the settings here, even if it is a little bit in your face. Another RGB feature boasted on this keyboard, RGB is really big on this thing, is the light bar that runs down the sides and the front of the unit. What this allows you to do is it allows you to program unique effects that tie in either with the rest of the keyboard. The wave effect with this looks particularly cool, or individual effects to these light bars. Now these are a really cool idea in my opinion, with the ones down the side looking particularly good. The one at the front also serves its purpose nicely, but it actually sits behind tinted plastic, which makes the light a bit dim for my liking. Maybe if it was too bright it would be distracting to the eye, however I would like to see some brightness control there. Another slight downside to this front RGB bar is that if you use the included wrist rest, which is fantastic and it fastens magnetically, you actually won't be able to see this bar. It blocks it off completely, which is a real shame because this wrist rest is a really, really nice add-on from Cooler Master. It's very premium and feels really, really good on your wrist. Wrist rest aside, jumping into the next slew of features on this keyboard, at the top right of the unit, you've got your media control keys, which I really, really appreciate. You've got next track, previous track, pause and mute controls. Having mute up here is really handy, however I would prefer the volume keys to be up here as well, or in place of the skip and previous track keys. I say this because to currently access the volume keys you need to use a combination of the FN key and the page up and page down keys. Whilst you do get used to this and it works well, the next and previous track functions in my opinion are less important, and Windows consistency and actually the next track and previous track keys working properly is quite low. Volume up here would definitely be better, but it's a minor quibble if that at all. Moving back onto the positives for this keyboard though, the use of genuine Cherry MX switches is appreciated. They're always consistent, they always work well, validated very well indeed, and they do cost the manufacturer a bit more, but for good reason. I've got my favourite Cherry MX blue switches on here, great for gaming, nice tactile feedback, but perhaps not the best option in a really quiet office. Just take a listen to this typing test. The keyboard is of course available with other Cherry MX variants, which will be linked in the description below. Another great thing about this keyboard, which I really commend, is its USB-C connection. I haven't seen many keyboards offer a USB-C connection, and it definitely feels like a step in the right direction. The included USB-C to USB Type-A cable is really nice. It's braided and can be run using the cable channels underneath the keyboard, which make it great for cable management. Not only that, the actual USB connector itself has little accents of purple on it, and it's this attention to detail that really justifies the high price tag of high-end products like this. Really great job on this one, Cooler Master. Finally, you do also of course get a Windows lock key on this keyboard through the use of FN and F9 to prevent any accidental quits from games or leaving that great round of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which I'm still terrible at, which is a good necessary feature on a keyboard like this. I really do hope Cooler Master make a shortened 10 keyless version of this keyboard, which would work perfectly on my desk. With somewhat limited real estate and space, I'd love to see a shortened version of this keyboard, and this unit is definitely a step in the right direction, both function and design wise, from the guys over at Cooler Master. I think that about wraps it up though for today's review of Cooler Master's MK750 at the top end of their Master Keys line of keyboards. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more. If you want to buy this product, there will be links in the description for a range of regions and retailers. And as always, we'll see you in the next GeekaWhat video.